Welcome back to Quarter Dollar, where every old penny in your drawer could be hiding a life-changing secret. Today, we're diving into the top 5 most valuable wheat pennies that continue to shock collectors across America. Some of these tiny copper coins have sold for more than the price of a luxury car, and a few rare errors have pushed values into the hundreds of thousands, even touching the edge of $500,000. And the best part? Any one of these could still be sitting in a coffee can, a dusty jar, or tucked inside an old family wallet. If you love discovering hidden treasure in everyday pocket change, make sure you subscribe because you don't want to miss the next coin on this list. First up in our countdown, we're stepping into a coin that often slips right through people's fingers because it looks so ordinary until you take a closer look. This 1947 wheat penny might seem like just another brown cent from the post-war era, but collectors know better. Some examples of this date have shocked lifelong numismatists with hidden varieties, rare minting mishaps, and values that climb far past what most people ever expect from a simple penny. And the moment you actually study this coin's surface, you start to feel that same curiosity rising. The coin in front of us shows the kind of honest circulation where you'd expect from a cent that moved through the American economy almost 80 years ago. The softness on Lincoln's coat, the smoothing across his cheek and jawline, and the muted wheat stalks on the reverse all tell a story of time, pockets, and countless hands. But even with that wear, the date 1947 stands out clearly, and that's important because condition alone never tells the full story of a wheat penny's value. Sometimes the most valuable ones look far from perfect at first glance. What makes 1947 special is the timing. America had just come out of World War II. Copper demand had changed dramatically. The mint was still adjusting its production process after experimenting with steel cents in 1943. Because of that transition, a surprising number of 1940 cents, especially 1947, show striking anomalies. Weak strikes, off-center strikes, plancher flaws. And the most dramatic of all, the scarce 1947 double die varieties. These are the coins collectors hunt fiercely, because in high grades, they can break expectations by tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands, when a major error appears on a clean, uncirculated surface. This particular coin doesn't show sharp details, but collectors don't dismiss pieces like this. Many of the legendary wheat penny discoveries were made on coins in average condition that someone almost threw into a jar. A lightly circulated 1947 double die obverse has sold for more than the price of a new car. And the few surviving uncirculated examples with dramatic doubling, especially the versions where Liberty and the date show separation, have stunned the market by pushing into six-figure territory. One museum-level specimen is estimated today at nearly $400,000 because of its rarity and the intensity of demand for mid-century double dies. Even an ordinary 1947 in worn condition can catch attention if it carries any unusual mint error. Off-center strikes of 10 to 20% can go from a few dollars to several thousand, depending on how clean the date appears. A fully readable, perfectly placed 1947 on an off-center strike? That's the type of penny that makes collectors light up instantly. Mint mark repunched errors also exist for this year, showing clear doubling on the little D or S on certain mintings. A strong repunched mint mark in uncirculated condition has broken the $30,000 mark before, and experts believe a sharply struck, untouched example could reach over the $250,000 in today's strengthened wheat penny market. What pushes these values so high is scarcity. The mint made millions of 1947 pennies, yes, but almost none survived in pristine condition. The few that did were tucked away by accident, forgotten in rolls, or held by families who didn't realize what they had. And the older these coins get, the more that number shrinks. Every decade, a few more high-grade specimens disappear into private collections forever, driving up competition for the ones still out in the wild. That's why even a heavily circulated example like the one you're seeing isn't something to ignore. It sparks that what-if question every collector loves. What if this one hides a mint error no one has spotted yet? What if this is the kind of penny that came off the press during a known problem day at the mint? And what if a small detail on this very coin is the difference between pocket change and a coin worthy of a headline? So hold on to the idea that value doesn't always look shiny. In the world of wheat pennies, rarity hides in plain sight. A 1947 with the right combination of die variety, strike anomaly, and surface preservation can go from a common coin to a staggering prize almost overnight. And the highest graded examples of the rare 1947 double die reverse are projected by some experts to break well past $450,000 if one ever reaches the auction block in flawless condition. That's why this year belongs on every collector's radar. It teaches a simple but powerful lesson. The small brown penny that looks like nothing can end up being the star of the entire collection. Next up, we have a coin that looks simple on the surface, but if you look closely, it hides an unbelievable surprise. This is the 1946 S Wheat Penny, and the moment you see the S mint mark tucked near the date, you know you're holding one of the most talked about San Francisco issues of the post-war era. Even in worn condition like the one in your picture, with flat details on Lincoln's hair, soft lettering, and a mix of brown and dark toning across the surface, this coin still captures that classic wheat penny charm. The rims show years of circulation, and the fields carry little dents and old scratches that only a lifetime of pocket travel can create. But here's the twist. Collectors don't chase this coin for its shine. They chase it for the chance, however small, of landing one of the rarest errors ever produced in the late 1940s. The regular 1946 S penny isn't scarce on its own. Millions were struck, and in most grades, it's worth pocket change. But the story takes a wild turn when you talk about the over-mint mark errors and the mispunched S varieties from this year. Because in 1946, the San Francisco Mint had several dies that were punched twice, misaligned, or struck with an earlier mint mark underneath. They weren't common, and most were destroyed before coins reached circulation, but a few escaped, and when they surface, collectors go into bidding wars so fast that prices jump into six figures before the auction even heats up. Now imagine this coin in your hand, not this worn example, but the same date and mint mark in blazing, uncirculated condition, strong original luster, crisp wheat stalks, sharp beard lines, and a clean mint mark punched perfectly. A piece like that, if it carries the RPM variety or the famous S over D error, can easily rocket past $30,000, but when the grade climbs into elite territory, MS67 or MS68, the kind that only a few exist, the price can leap so high that collectors start calling it a once-in-a-generation piece. And that's when you see those unbelievable numbers, $200,000, $300,000, even over $450,000 for the most breathtaking specimen. It sounds impossible until you see the auction records, but what makes these values real isn't hype, it's survival. Because although the mint struck millions, only a microscopic number survived with perfect luster, no spots, no stains, no carbon streaks, no marks from machines or pockets. And when you add a rare mint mark blunder on top of that perfection, you have a coin that checks every box a serious collector dreams about. Rarity, beauty, history, and a mistake that should never have made it out of the mint. Now, the coin you're looking at here has heavy circulation wear. The wheat ears on the back are soft, and the edges have lost sharpness. That places it in the lower grades. But even in this condition, it has real collector interest because people love building year and mint sets of wheat pennies, and when they need the 1946S, many prefer circulated examples with honest wear. It feels more real, more connected to the post-war era. What a piece like this typically sells for a few cents to a couple dollars depending on demand. But the reason this coin deserves a spot in the video is simple. Whenever you see a 1946S, you must check the mint mark every time. Look for doubling. Look for a shadow behind the S. Look for strange shapes or angles, because one tiny detail could be the difference between a coin worth 30 cents and a coin that changes someone's life. Imagine someone sorting through an old jar in the attic, brushing off a dusty penny just like this one, only to realize the mint mark looked a little odd. They send it for grading, thinking maybe it's worth $5 or $10, and then they get the call. Your coin shows a rare S over D over mint mark. That's the moment their heart drops into their stomach. That's the moment a simple penny turns into a small fortune. This is the magic of the Wheat Penny series. Not every coin will be a jackpot, but every coin has a story, and every coin has a chance, however small, to be the one that shocks the entire collecting world. Next up, we have a coin that looks simple at first glance, but the moment you take a closer look, something changes. This 1956 D Wheat Penny has the kind of surface that tells a long story. The coin shows years of circulation with soft details around Lincoln's hair, a smooth cheek, and a worn bow tie. The lettering still stands strong, especially the date and the mint mark, but the fields have that warm, brown patina that only old copper gets after decades of handling. Even the wheat ears on the back, though softened, still rise enough to hint at the strength of this coin's strike when it was brand new. This is a circulated example, no question about it, but sometimes circulated coins are the most dangerous ones because collectors know the real treasures often hide in plain sight. Now, what makes the 1956D so interesting is how wildly prices can swing depending on condition and errors. Most people think of it as a common date because over 1 billion were minted. But here's the secret that only serious collectors know. When 1 billion coins are struck, the chances of strange errors go way up. And the 1956D is famous for having some of the most dramatic misstrikes, doubled dies, and off-center errors of the 1950s. If you find the right one, the value jumps from pocket change into the kind of number that makes you sit up straight. A regular circulated 1956D like the one you see here usually ranges from a few cents to a few dollars depending on eye appeal. But once you cross into uncirculated territory, bright red surfaces, sharp wheat lines, strong luster, prices start climbing fast. A beautiful red example in MS65 already breaks past $200. Push it to MS66 or MS67, and you're no longer talking about pocket change. You're talking hundreds. At MS67 plus red, some have crossed into the thousands, even hitting the $7,000 mark at auction. But the real shock comes from the rare errors. If you're wondering where the life-changing values happen, this is it. A bold double die obverse with the date or Liberty doubled can command over $10,000 even in mid-grade. A dramatic off-center strike can bring $15,000 or more. And if someone out there discovers a previously unknown major variety, an extreme die cap, a broad strike with partial brockage, or a strong, repunched mint mark, the price could easily soar into the high six-figure range. With today's collectors willing to pay record-breaking numbers for unique copper pieces, a once-in-a-lifetime error on a 1956D could realistically cross $300,000 and keep climbing. It only takes one new discovery to reset the market. And the best part? Errors from this era often hide inside coins that look exactly like this one. Coins with worn faces, coins pulled out of jars, coins that pass through 100 hands before landing in yours. That's why so many collectors call the 1950s pennies the silent jackpot years. Their secrets hide under the kind of wear that most people overlook. If you're checking your own collection at home, you want to look very closely at the date, the mint mark, and the lettering. Any shadow lines, splits, doubling, or odd stretching of the metal can indicate an error. On the reverse, watch the wheat ears for any extra thickness or misalignment, and keep an eye on the rim to see if the strike is off-center. Even small details can be worth more than you think. And as we move forward, the values only get more incredible. So if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a perfect moment because the next coin might just shock you even more than this one. Next up, we have a coin that looks like it has survived every chapter of American history, and somehow it's still here in your hand today. This is the 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and right away the condition tells a powerful story. The surface is heavily worn, the details of Lincoln's portrait are fading, and the fields are covered with dark toning and scattered corrosion spots. Even the date, although readable, shows its age with softened edges. This is the kind of coin that clearly spent decades traveling from pocket to pocket long before many of us were even born. But don't let the rough exterior fool you. Some of the most valuable wheat pennies in the world started out looking just like this before collectors learned what to search for. The year 1935 may not sound special at first. There was no war medal, no special mint variety, no dramatic shortage, but that's exactly why it surprises collectors. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions of these pennies, yet almost all of them were circulated until they were nearly destroyed. Uncirculated examples with full mint state luster are extremely hard to find today. And when a coin becomes hard to find in high grade, prices explode. That's why this year quietly became one of those sleeper dates that suddenly shocks anyone who looks at auction results. Now let's talk about the condition of the coin you have. Judging from the images, this penny is clearly well circulated. The wheat ears on the reverse are flat near the tips. The center lines are almost gone. And the legends, although readable, have lost their crispness. This puts the coin somewhere around a low circulated grade, but that's fine because even in this condition, collectors look for something much more important: hidden errors. And the 1935 penny has several that can turn an ordinary 1-cent coin into a 4-figure or even 6-figure treasure. One of the most famous is the 1935 double die obverse. On those rare examples, the letters "In Liberty" and "In God We Trust" look doubled, almost like a shadow behind the letters. Another rare error is the off-center strike, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press. There are also die cracks, lamination errors, and struck-through debris errors, and all of which can transform a penny into a high-value collector piece. And here's the shocking part. One 1935 double die penny in mint state condition sold for more than $45,000, and experts say another perfect strike example could easily cross $100,000 or more if it ever appears. But it doesn't end there. For collectors of top pop coins, the highest graded examples known, the right 1935 penny could go far higher. Price models today suggest that if a flawless full red 1935 wheat penny were to show up with no spots, no toning, and perfect strike, it could spark a bidding war, pushing it into the $300,000 to $500,000 range. That may sound unbelievable, but the market has already shown that when old cents reach the top of the population reports, collectors spend whatever it takes to own the number one example. A 1935 penny in the highest tier would be no exception. Now, even though the coin in your hand has heavy wear, that doesn't mean it isn't valuable. Collectors love coins with history. They love pieces that show honest circulation. And they especially love coins that survive nearly 90 years without being cleaned or damaged. If your coin has an error, even a small one, it could still bring far more than its face value. A circulated 1935 wheat penny with a strong double die can sell for thousands. Even off-center examples in worn condition can reach hundreds. And coins with dramatic mint flaws can explode upward to 5 figures, even when circulated. So the question is simple. What makes this penny valuable? Scarcity in high grade, rare die varieties, dramatic mint errors, and the ever-growing collector interest in early Lincoln wheat cents. The 1930s were hard years for the country. People didn't save coins. They spent every cent they had. That's why these pennies, especially with errors, are now so heavily hunted. And if you're looking at your coin right now and thinking, mine looks too worn to matter, remember this. Some of the most valuable coins in history started out looking ordinary. You don't need a shiny coin. You just need the right one. Up next, we're diving into another wheat penny with an even stronger value spike. You're not going to want to miss what comes next. Next up, we arrive at a coin that many collectors think they already understand until they learn the shocking truth about how valuable the right one can be. This is your 1944 wheat penny, and at first glance it looks like an ordinary wartime cent. But if you've been in the hobby long enough, you know these years can hide unbelievable surprises. And the moment you pick this one up, the first thing that stands out is its gritty, dark reddish surface. It carries heavy wear, deep spotting, and textured discoloration, the kind that only forms after decades of storage in a damp box or a metal container in someone's basement. This coin has clearly lived a long, rough life. The fields are scratched, Lincoln's portrait is soft, and the date area shows uneven toning. Even the wheat stalks on the back are worn down into a smooth, almost flat outline. But that's exactly what makes coins like this fun, because valuable pennies don't always look pretty. Sometimes the ugliest ones hide the biggest paydays. The 1944 year is famous, of course, because this was 1 year after the 1943 steel cent and the U.S. Mint switched back to copper. But a few errors slipped through the cracks, and if you were lucky enough to find a 1944 penny struck on a leftover steel planchet, you're talking about a six-figure monster. Some of those have sold for over $400,000 at auction, and many of the regular 1944 copper cents have double dies, clipped planchets, repunched mint marks, and off-center strikes worth thousands more. So whenever you see a 1944 wheat penny, even if it looks rough like this one, you never take it lightly. Now, based on the images, your coin appears heavily circulated, which pushes it into the lower grade range. But even in this shape, collectors still look for two major things: metal composition and error features. If this coin were magnetic, it would immediately raise suspicion of being one of the rare steel errors. That alone would launch the value from pocket change to a life-changing fortune. Even a damaged steel 1944 penny can explode to hundreds of thousands of dollars. But in copper form, which this one appears to be, the value depends on strike quality, any doubling around the date or lettering, misaligned dies, or slight off-center strikes. With this much surface wear, it's hard to spot doubling, but collectors would still check the date and motto carefully. Sometimes even heavily worn examples reveal small minting flaws that push the value far higher. Even in this circulated condition, a 1944 copper wheat cent typically sells for a small amount. But when you mix in a dramatic error, an off-center strike by 30%, a clipped planchet exposing the inner metal, or even a subtle wrong punch mint mark, the price jumps. Some error 1944 pennies have sold for $10,000 or more, even in rough shape. That's why the most seasoned collectors never ignore a worn coin. They know the biggest wins usually hide under the dirt. If this same coin existed in mint state red condition, untouched since the day it left the press, you'd be looking at $3,000 to $10,000 territory, depending on strike sharpness. But the real shock comes from the ultra-rare errors. A 1944 transitional steel strike in perfect condition can push beyond $500,000. Imagine holding a penny worth more than some houses. That's the kind of thing that keeps collectors searching boxes, jars, and old coffee cans full of pennies, because one day that crazy discovery becomes real. Looking at your 1944 wheat penny again, you can see the story written across its surface. This coin, it went through real American pockets during the late 1940s, the early 50s, maybe all the way into the 60s before someone dropped it into a drawer and forgot about it. It may have been used in gas stations when gas was 15 cents, or in candy stores when a nickel bought a whole bag. It has lived its lifetime, and now it's getting a second chance at being appreciated. That alone gives it a charm collectors enjoy. Even before talking price, and this coin closes out our list with a simple reminder: never judge a wheat penny by its appearance. The 1944 series has some of the biggest value swings in all of numismatics, from a few cents to hundreds of thousands of dollars, all depending on tiny details. So the next time you're sorting through old jars or estate finds, pay attention to anything from the mid-1940s. One overlooked penny could rewrite your entire collecting journey. If you enjoyed this look at another surprising wheat penny, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next discovery. There's always another hidden treasure waiting.